Carolina Storyteller tells stories that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Stay spooky, my friends.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to the Carolina Storyteller. I'm your storyteller, Jonathan Phoenix, and joining me today is the lovely, the beautiful, the talented, the one, the only Crimson. Say hi, Crimson.
Hello.
Thank you for coming and being with me today. You've been wanting to be on the show for forever, so I am now allowing you to be on the show. Okay, allow is a strong word. Technically, I'm doing it so I don't get killed, because I could get killed if I don't let her on the show.
But thank you.
Okay. So anyway, I always tell my stories to Crimson and the kids before I, get all crazy sharing them about. But this is one I've never told you. And you've heard almost all of my ghost stories, right?
Yes.
So this is one from Charleston that you've never heard. Can you believe that? You really think you've heard this one?
I don't know.
Okay. So this one takes place in the mid-1800s. Well, early to mid-1800s. Technically, it's around 1840. And it involves Charleston's very own Lady in Red. And if I had the money, I would insert the copyrighted song here. But because I cannot afford it, you're just going to have to imagine that that song is playing. Because I can't afford to get sued. But yes, I'm talking about Charleston's very own Lady in Red. And the Lady in Red in Charleston has a name. And that name is none other than Nettie Dickerson. Nettie Dickerson was a young woman who came to Charleston at the young age of 25 in today's years. But by the time she reached Charleston in 1840, she was past marrying age. She had worked as a lady of the night in various cities, and she had come to Charleston in hopes of finding a man and getting married and settling down, having kids, the whole family thing, which is basically your only choice as a woman back in the 1800s. You had to rely on a man because you didn't have the power to vote, you didn't have the power to do anything, and the only jobs that were relegated to women were teaching, raising kids, and being used for sex. That was all you really had. So it's understandable that she wanted something else out of life. So she was in Charleston for a few years trying to find a way, and she would meet and become engaged with many a man who would later go on to confess their love to someone much younger whom they had never even spoken to, but fit the overall societal choice of being a marriageable woman. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I get it. I feel you, girl.
So, they were like me. They went for the younger chicks.
I was surprised. Not surprised.
So, Nettie was getting fed up with this. In fact, she was getting downright pissed. And she was doing everything she could. She even actually worked at the local Episcopal church in Charleston, where she would help maintain the books. She was the treasurer for the local church. So she was doing everything she could to better herself, to be a better prospect for marriage to a man. But because she was old, it's not like today where the young guys look at them and call them cougars. Back then 25 was old. Like nowadays 25 is young. Like, it's very strange how it's changed. You're still a kid at 25 nowadays. Back then you were an old maid. They wanted women in their mid-teens, which is kind of a little disgusting if you think about it, but society has grown, I guess.
You get it. I would hope.
No, I still think society is a little messed up, but
Oh, yeah.
back then society was really screwed up. Not just for how they treated women, but for many other things. But Nettie had enough. Now, Nettie would frequent a place called the Planners Motel. And it was called this, no, it was the Planters Merchant Inn. And it was called this because it was where the planters and the merchants would stay when they came to town to sell their wares. Remember, the South's economy back then was basically a lot of agriculture. People were growing stuff. Slavery was real big. So they were either selling wares for these plantation owners to take back to their plantations, or they were the plantation owners here selling their wares so that they could buy stuff to take back to their plantation. It was basically a big circle of shit going back to the plantations. And Nettie had been really...
Big farmer's market.
Yeah, and that's really what it was. It was a big farmer's market. And basically, Nettie had banged all of these farmers. And they had all kind of, though they paid her, they'd all promised her much more than money. They'd promised her a life. They'd promised to take her away from, take her away from all these things that she couldn't stand. And Nettie was like, oh, well, okay. And with each one, she'd fall for it. And each time she'd fall for it and come out the other side a little bit harder. So Nettie took all the money that she had saved up from all these men and from working at the church, and she went to the local tailor. And she bought the finest, most expensive, most amazing red dress that they had. It supposedly had like a slit down the side. I mean, it was like French, it was like super French style, top of the line, like the stuff princesses would wear. You didn't see this in Charleston. And Nettie proceeded to go to where all of these men and women were hanging out, go to their balls and their parties. And she would get drunk and she would yell and scream at them, telling them all their dirty little secrets. Dirty little secrets Nettie had learned in their bedchambers over the past several years of trying to woo herself a husband. So, she would, walk up to, Nettie would walk up to little Miss Christine Gaskins or whoever she might be. Probably shouldn't have used the last name Gaskins, but oh well. Just walk up to her and be like, let me tell you about your man. He likes it when I do this. And would just leave all that business in the public. Just leave it all in the public. That's exactly how it was. I mean, she was letting it all out. She was not having any of this BS. And Nettie, of course, became known for just being this very vulgar and mean woman. And she would be seen wearing her ultra fine, amazing red dress, turning the heads. Women were jealous that she looked so good. Men were jealous that their wives did not look that good. But no one, of course, was pledging their love to her. And she, by this point in time, was someone no one wanted to be around. Anyway, she began to delve into alcoholism while she was doing this. And it became known that once Nettie was a little drunk, Nettie was going to be somewhere just basically cussing everybody out. And it just so happened that during a summer, just before 1844, I think, 1844, 1845, this had not been, Nettie was not in Charleston for a very long time. Nettie went to what is now known as the Dock Street Theater, which had an inn attached to it. It was the Planters Merchants Inn that I had talked about before. And she went out onto a balcony that overlooked the street on the second story. And she was standing, some report that she was standing up on the actual balcony itself. And others report that she was just standing on the balcony. And she was berating the passersby. She would call them out by name and throw out their sins. Even the father of the church at which she had worked. Even the father at the church at which she had worked had been called out for Hang on a second. We're having mic problems. These mics don't like me. I'm trying to get them to work.
This one, we got this one.
Okay. So anyway, they called her out would call out the father of the church for having his way with her.
Okay.
and doing the nasty wasty with everybody. She was calling them all out. And a storm was coming in, a thunderstorm, just like we've got today, which we know Charleston is common for thunderstorms.
Oh yeah.
And Nettie was struck by lightning, not once but twice.
Damn.
Within like seconds, it was like bam, bam, and fell.
She must have had a lot of metal in that dress.
I don't know what it was, but she fell from the balcony to her death. They believe she died from the lightning strike, but either way, when she hit the ground, Nettie was dead. And that's normally, dead is where the story ends. But of course, this is a ghost story. The Dock Street Theater is a historic landmark in Charleston, and it's opened and closed many a time. And over the years, there have been several ghosts attached to it. The father of John Wilkes Booth, Julius Booth, is believed to be there. But the most famous ghost is Charleston's Lady in Red. There's a woman in a red dress who is seen standing on the balcony, walking along the hallways, and even climbing the stairs within the Dock Street Theater. Many have claimed to see her over the years, with the last very largely reported sighting being as recent as 2017. That someone's made a big deal about it. So 2017, someone was like, "Oh wow, I saw the Lady in Red in Charleston." And it turns out that this Lady in Red is none other than Nettie Dickerson.
That's interesting.
So have you ever heard that one before?
No, I haven't.
See, I told you I had one that you hadn't heard before. Nettie Dickerson, Charleston's very own Lady in Red.
That's interesting. I think we would have gotten along, though.
You think you and Nettie would have gotten along?
Oh, hell yeah.
I think Nettie was... I honestly think Nettie was a bad bitch.
Yeah, you're telling me?
Like, I feel like Nettie was the kind of person you hung out with, and you knew, like, Nettie would handle some shit.
Yeah.
Like, Nettie would handle stuff, like, instantly. Like, Nettie was not afraid at all. Like, she just...
Now, people say that they feel like they're born in the wrong generation. Nowadays, she was born in the wrong generation.
Yeah, Nettie should have been born, like, now.
Yeah, she should have... Strong Me Too. Hashtag.
Oh yeah, Nettie would have rocked the Me Too hashtag.
Me
Too movement.
Yeah.
Nettie would have rocked that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
But that's all I can just picture her just being that really strong woman, one of those really strong women that we would really need nowadays.
Yeah, I feel like Nettie would definitely be a very strong voice for the women's movement, and she obviously was a strong voice for women back in the day because she left a mark. Believe it or not. Because of her, actions of men in Charleston actually were kind of changed, and there was more of a crackdown on that kind of behavior in Charleston. Mm-hmm. And understand, in previous stories I've talked about Charleston being a harbor town, and pirates and everything famously being there. In the 1800s, this is still pirates' time. Yeah, and this was the beginning of the crackdown on all of that, just before the Civil War. This is when we're like, hey, this isn't suitable behavior, and we're going to knock this down. Now, granted, of course, their reason for knocking it down was because of God, not because they needed to treat people properly or anything like that. Course. But, we're going to take a positive step as a positive step sometimes, and it was a positive step towards the treatment of women in the city of Charleston, at least. But
maybe higher ups, but I'm pretty sure it took a little bit longer to do.
It took a little longer for people like Nettie, but adultery became a very frowned upon thing once you were married in Charleston at that point.
Well, I can understand that,
and that was the point I was trying to make is that because most of these women, up until that point, stepping out on your wives with the Lady of the Night was common practice. It's just what you did. I'm going to go and do something real quick with that one. And, you don't do that now unless you want to get stabbed multiple times.
Yeah, we take care of that real quick.
Yeah. So, in the South, you just don't do that anymore because Southern girls are crazy. It really, really.
I don't,
crazy.
it relates to the Southern girls, this kind of girl, that kind of girl. I think we're all crazy. We just have our own unique kind of crazy because of how we grew up. Like, honestly,
no, I think you're crazy.
You mess with a New York girl, she's just as bad.
Okay, all right. Maybe I'm just, I'm used to dealing with Southern girls, and as someone who has dealt with a Southern woman for the past 17 years, I can say 100% run for your life. Anyway, that's my story for today. What did you think of it?
I thought it was very interesting.
I'm glad that you liked it. Thank you so much for letting me tell you this story and for joining me and doing this with me. I'm glad that I got to do it with you one time. Because phrasing, John, phrasing. I'm glad that we got to do an episode together. We've never done one together. So maybe we'll do more together, but this was fun. And thank you for being with me. And folks, that's it for our story. That's it for our show. We'll see you next time. And as always, stay spooky, my friends.